Hi, fifth graders. So I am back to making homework tutorials to do your homework with you. So in order to do this right, make sure you have your homework out in front of you, a pencil, and just go ahead and follow along. All right. Just in case you don't, please make sure you have your name at the very top and then write today's date as well, please. All right, so we are comparing fractions. So it says on number 1, color in decimal unit frames to show each fraction. Each frame represents one whole. So these grids right here are the unit frames that they're talking about. Think about our dollar grids that we were working with in class, and then our base 10 blocks that we were also working with in class. So this entire square represents one whole. And you can see that it's split up in certain ways. So in class, we talked about how one column represents 1/10 because 10 of these makes up the entire whole. So when I'm talking about 10, talk about these columns. Remember that columns go up and down. So you have 10 columns to cover the entire whole. Okay? Then if we counted each and every square, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and so on, we would have 100 in the entire thing. So again, I'm going to write this off to the side. You can write it too to help you. One entire column would be 1/10 because there's 10 in all. And then one small square is 1/100th. Okay? So on A, it wants us to color in half of it. So I know if I have this whole thing, and if I have 10 columns, half of 10 would be 5. So I need to make sure I shade in 5 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's just helping me set it up. So I'm going to take this and then shade in 5/10 or 50/100 because 50 is also 1/2 of 100. Right? On the next one, it wants us to do 1/4 of it. You might want to think back to our money grid pieces and how 1/4 of a dollar is a quarter. What we did in class is we split it up like this. So you can imagine it with the whole as an entire box, split it into 4 pieces, and then shade in one of those. We also shaded in 25/100. 25 is 1/4 of 100. All right. I want you to go ahead and try C. You should have A and B filled in. I know I'm doing it with you, but just because I'm doing it with you doesn't mean just leave it blank. So it wants you to fill out 3/10. Remember, a tenth is one column, or it could be one row as well. So go ahead and shade in 3 of those tenths. You might want to pause the video. All right, now you need to shade in 16/10. So remember that one of these is 1/10. You need to shade in 16. Remember that 10 cover just one of them. So you're going to have to use both of these. So I would shade it in 1, 2, 3, and so on until you get 16/10. I would pause the video really quick before you move on to the next one. Fill out 16/10. Moving on to E, it says 16/4. Well, when we did B, we shaded in 1/4. So what I would do is I would split this in 2/4, and shade in until you have 6 of them. Notice how only 4/4 makes up one whole. So you're going to need both of these boxes to do so. Go ahead and pause the video to do that. All right, you are going to need these for the rest of your homework. So I would constantly refer back to this. The reason why they had you fill this out is to help you on the rest of the questions. So number 2 says use the decimal unit frames, which are these. Use the decimal unit frames you colored in to help you complete each comparison using a greater than, less than, or equal sign. So when you do these, you need to make sure that, I always think about it as like an alligator, so that your greater than or less than sign, or alligator, always wants to eat the larger number. But if they're equal, make sure you put that equal sign. So it needs to be facing the greater number. So they did an example for us here. They have 1/2 and 3/10. So they looked back at their 1/2 and what was shaded in. They looked back at their 3/10, and then they compared it, and they saw that 1/2 was greater than, or had more shaded in than 3/10. And if we shaded in 3/10, here you can check your answer. It should look like this. Okay, so if we compare these 1/2 and 3/10, we see that 1/2 is greater. So they made sure that their greater than, less than sign was pointing towards the 1/2. So now on A, you're going to look at your 6/4 versus the 1/2. So here was your 6/4, and here is your 1/2. Go ahead and look and see which one's greater or less than, or maybe equal, and then write in your sign right here. You're going to do the same for 6/10 versus 3/4, the same for C, D, and E. Go ahead and pause the video to do that now. All right, we have a story problem for number 3. It says Mr. Gugliotti bought some fresh fruit for a 5th grade event. He bought 2.5 pounds of peaches, 7/10 of a pound of raspberries, and 1 1/4 pounds of apricots. How many pounds of fruit did he buy in all? Show your thinking and include your units. 5th graders, please, please, please do not forget to include your units. Our units are pounds in this problem, so you might want to write pounds next to it. Include that in your answer. On your Unit 1 test, it gave you points if you included the units, so please get in the habit of doing that. Let's look back at the problem. So he has 2.5 pounds of peaches, 7/10 pounds of raspberries, and 1 1/4 pounds of apricots. And it's wanting to know how many pounds did he buy in all. So I want you to think about what operation you're going to be doing. Do you think you're going to be adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing? In class, we talked about not leaving problems blank. So I'm seeing some numbers here. I'm seeing 2 1/2, I'm seeing 7/10, and I'm seeing 1 1/4. Pull out those numbers, think about which operation would work best, and then try to solve it. Okay, again, you might want to look back at this to help you. Go ahead and work on that problem. All right, moving on to the next page. It says fill in the blanks to show the missing fraction or mixed number. Mixed number is just when we have a whole number and a fraction together to show one amount. So one example would be 1 1/2. Use the dollar grids provided if you would like. So they provided you with some dollar grids like we've used in class. A says 1/2 plus 1/4. Remember when we were in class, what we did, if I'm doing problem A, I'm going to shade in 1/2, then I'm going to shade in 1/4, and then how much do I have all together? I noticed that when I did 1/2 and 1/4, I split my whole into fourths, and I have 3/4. I wrote that bad, sorry. 3/4 when I add those together. So use those money grids to help you. This is what I did for A. All right, be careful on D because we have a blank here in the middle of an equation. 3/10 plus blank gets us 13/20. You might want to draw this and maybe see how you can, or what would be added to 3/10 to get that amount. All right. Our challenges are optional, but I encourage everyone to at least try the challenge. Number 5 says write 3 fraction addition problems in which the fractions have different denominators and the sum is 1. So we need 3 equations. In your equations, they have to have a different denominator, and your answer has to be 1, and they gave you an example. So if you can only do 1, that's fine. If you do all 3, that's cool. Number 6 says fill in the missing numerators and denominators to make each comparison true. So whatever you put here as the numerator, it needs to be greater than 4/2. So for example, if I put 4/2, that would not make it greater. I could just do a little bit more to make it greater. Looking at B, 1 1/4 is equal to 1 and blank 12ths. In the number corner, we talked about how to get some equivalent fractions. There's something we need to do to the numerator and denominator. Try to remember from number corner. And then in C, we have to make this fraction greater than 16 32s. It's always a weird one to say. All right. Good luck on your homework. Take your time. Make sure you get everything done. Challenges are optional though, but everything before the challenge, please make sure to do. You got this. If you have to rewatch this video, go ahead and rewatch it and then get your homework turned in. All right. I will see you guys the next time you come to school. Bye.